Alright guys, welcome back to another replay analysis. This is another one with MuffinMeistro. We're got 3 of these bad boys. And once again, this is the same story as the other one I talked about. If this is the third one you're watching, this should be titled MuffinMeistro Replay Analysis number 3. Keep in mind, all of these games have been played before he got any of this analysis, so yeah, he might make the same mistakes multiple times, but it's good to correct them no matter what anyways, because it's important, especially for people who are watching this on YouTube. Is if this is like your first one you've watched, you might not know that, and it might be the first time you heard it. Oops, turn the music off. So anyways, this is a diamond level Zerg versus Protoss, and we are watching it from MuffinMeistro's perspective. We are going to see kind of how he decides to handle the game and critique everything he does poorly and praise everything he does well. But I haven't been doing a lot of praising. Just kidding, MuffinMeistro. Your creep is actually, I think your creep is actually respectably good mid-game. For a diamond. Don't get a big head. You can improve on everything, but yeah.
Replay 3.
Thank you, dude. Much appreciated. Stop taking this base as well. Seriously, in general, don't take this base. This base is actually like twice as hard to defend as this one. And you might be thinking to yourself, there's a ramp though, ViBE. But ViBE, there's a ramp. That ramp sucks. You know what sucks even harder? The fact that this base is being zoned off by a choke point. You see, you can actually defend your base because it's really hard for the Protoss to section out this part of your base, because you can make the Protoss have to go to the ramp rather than you have to. This is a good way to say it. This makes a lot of sense. This ramp is what your Protoss opponent has to use if you position your army here, which is very reasonable. You can position your army here, 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 and you have a nice concave against a ramp. But your Protoss opponent, if you ever go down the ramp to fight him here, obviously you're letting him use it against you. But if you take this base and the Protoss pushes you, he can actually use this against you. That is a tighter choke point than that. This is a very tight choke point. It's from there to there. It's really tiny. And it sucks ass for you if you get stuck there. Yeah, it's more like right there to there. And then also the Protoss can even connect the wall to the gas. Like, there's a lot of ways you can get screwed here. That's just really shitty. Just because it looks open, it doesn't mean the space is better. The space is worse. This is like a good 4th maybe, or 5th base. I would say, to be honest, this base is probably your best 4th base because this is also open, but it's really close to your 3rd, so it's really easy to defend both. So, recommendation. All right, I gotta watch it one more time just to see your. Oh, look! See, look at this one. 19 supply, and you sent the drone out. You will not larva cap this time. Round of applause for MuffinMeistro. Even though he hasn't really played a new game since I started doing these replay analyses. He's learned. Look at the 3. Does it happen? Does it happen? No. Congratulations. You don't have to automatically quit this game. You have successfully not larva capped. Good shit. That's really important, and respect that. You respected it this time. I really like that, but you need to respect it always. So now what do we see? Okay. Okay. We see a fucking forge. Automatically. Automatically. Scout into his base. I hope to God you don't stop. Because you really want to know, is this guy got a second pylon in his base? And is this guy going for a Stargate? There are 2 types of forge builds. 1 is a weapon upgrade, pressure timing. 2 is defensive cannons with the Stargate. Those are the most common types of forge. This is not a cannon rush because this is not a forge before Nexus. This is a forge after the Nexus and the core. So this is 100% a mid-game forge, which is either for defensive cannons or mid-game upgrade pressure. And that's also a second gateway. I would say you don't need to make 12 lings against this because he made a forge. A forge is not tech. A forge is not like or sorry, he made a, like the second gateway is really late. is what I'm trying to say. You're fine. You don't need to make 12 lings. You can make 6 and you'd be totally fine here. The 12 ling thing I told you earlier, make sure you know, that's only if you make 2 gates like before the Nexus even starts or like right as the Nexus is started. We're talking like 2 gates finish as the core is done. So this would be making 2 Adepts instead of 1. That's when you'd want to make like 12 lings. Otherwise 6 is very, very fine. So second pylon, you found it. There is no Stargate yet. I actually would have really liked if you would have scouted further into his gas again. He is getting an upgrade. There's no nothing forcing him to keep doing that upgrade, but chances are he's probably going to get it. So if you see that he's going for an upgrade like this, I would say this is one of those like 3-minute. I'm kind of glad this happened because this is not actually something we talked about earlier. I told you to get 250 against Council, 3-minute against Robo or Blind, and 340 against Stargate. This would be like a 3-minute gas, because this is going to be this is another form of pressure similar to what like a Immortal Robo can do, and for all you know, he might even have a Robo started somewhere. And it's a Council actually, but it doesn't matter. This is not like, you don't have to worry about DTs. This is not a DT build. This is just like your average mid-game pressure, and 3-minute gas is great against that. So 3-minute gas would be my recommendation here, and you're taking gas at 330. This is a bit late. But even so, I actually think you'll still be fine. This build is it's gonna hit kind of a mid to late timing, but in general, I would recommend 3 minutes just for the sake of repetition and control. It'll give you a nice, well-rounded roach speed timing to deal with a lot of builds. And again with the Sentry, this Sentry makes absolutely no sense with the build he's done so far, and it's 100% because I think he wants to just be safe against his Zergligolin, and he wants to have the ability to force field. He also might use it to hallucinate scout you. That also does kind of make sense. But actually, here, hold on. When you really think about it like that, the fact that he made a Sentry makes me think that it's more likely that he will go for a 3rd base rather than attack you, because this Sentry is most likely going to scout your base with a Phoenix, hallucination Phoenix, and he wants to just make sure that he's not going to die, and he can take a 3rd without dying. It doesn't really make a lot of sense in terms of attacking you, because if he goes for weapon upgrade Forge and goes for 1 Sentry's not going to do anything. You kind of need a lot of Sentries for Sentries to make sense, and a lot of Sentries with a Forge upgrade is going to just delay a Sentry timing. And if he's getting a Council and not even getting a Forge, it also doesn't make sense. Just doesn't make fucking sense unless it's literally just to fucking scout you with a hallucination. And you even also saw the Dark Shrine. So even if he is going to go Dark Shrine, if you did the 3-minute gas like I said, you would still 100% be fine from that. But you did see it. I don't know if you clicked it, but you did see it. Oops.
Queen birth successful.
Your drone count is respectable again, all things considered. You're making spores, and I don't like that. I think you need to just get more, like, obviously this is once again still before this stuff, but don't ever make spores unless it's a Stargate. Always rely on an Overseer, and the best way to do this is a new piece of information I haven't told you yet that you need to know. Always, when you rely on an Overseer, you have to do this a certain way. Scout his 3rd base like you have, and if your opponent has not taken a 3rd base by 5 minutes and 20 seconds, like the whole thing we talked about before, where it's like, this is now all in, you need to make 2 Overseers then. You need to make 1 for your main, and you need to make 1 for your 3rd. 2 separate Overseers. And you need to get ready to deal with potential multiple DT pressures. Because any Protoss player who is, like, you'll get to a point when you play Protoss players who are good enough to do this, unless you already are, I don't know. But Protosses will, if they go for a standard 3rd, like a 450 3rd, they will DT pressure you in 1 angle. First off, like right away, right off the bat. And then it'll be really easy to continue dealing with the DT pressure because it'll most likely won't even be DTs anymore. It'll most likely be like an Archon Prism or something like that to kind of try and control the map. Stuff like that. It's a lot easier to deal with. But a Protoss who does a really delayed third will do something more like maybe double Prism pressure or warp in even more rounds of DTs to attack you to try and do multi-prong of stealth pressure. And having multiple Overseers is a small investment but a massive defensive defensive advantage for you if your opponent does something like delays the shit out of a third like this. So huge. Really big. Really, really, really big. You can still get static D later, but just know the exact same reason why I told you not to get static D the other game. If you get static D before you're fully saturated and before you actually need to use it, it's inefficient. And anything that's inefficient adds up and makes you worse off in the game, which makes me say things like, you could be maxed right now, and you're not. Roaches and Overseers are more than capable of defending this shit right now. You don't need to have spores as well. And Overseer is multi-purpose. It can also scout your opponent. Yo, Dead Knife for gaming. Thank you very much for the sub, dude. And there's the DTs. So you have Spore. You'll be fine. Overseer could have been the same thing. It's whatever, though. You get my point. I don't like what you did, though. You have all your queens at one base, and you have all your roaches at the other. Just know that if this guy actually wanted to take a fight, he would win. If he brought DTs in here, he would kill way more than it's worth. You would have to be like, roaches, come help, because your queens would die. And if your queens die, that's number one. That's already bad. And then if your drones start dying, like if you pull your drones off to start fighting as well, that's also really bad. So my recommendation would be, you should split your roaches up. You should have cut your roaches like in half. Half here, half there, because roaches could actually burst down adepts, DTs pretty fast. Like roaches would be way more impactful there. It's basically just giving you a realistic gauge of how your army does. Also, the other thing too is you made the Overseers anyways, and you need the Overseers to be able to spread your creep to really have the ability to make the DTs leave or back up. And this game, I will not praise your creep spread. This game, your creep spread is really bad. Because here's another thing that's important. Imagine if your creep spread was already out here. It was up here a little bit. It was over here. It was over here. It was over here. And you saw this prism coming in over here, flying. And the prism is, you know, the prism's here where it is now. And you had queens. You had, like, let's say some roaches here, and you had queens here. Because you saw the prism. The roaches aggro the Archon, and like, let's say he does this, where he's like, prism is so fucking far away from the Archons. Your roaches are over here fighting the Archon. They're just keeping him busy for right now. And then your queens, you don't attack the Archon. You just literally walk up, and you start stutter step, attack, moving. Like, move, attack, move, attack, move, attack. Keep moving into the prism and attacking it, and you zone the prism out. A lot of Protosses will fucking lose their prism, or straight up load the prism up with Archons and lose it all, lose everything. And if the prism dies and these Archons die, the amount of pressure you have now applied to Protoss and the amount of free room you have to work with is crazy. Because if we look at army supply, this is basically the entire army for Protoss. It's not legit the entire army, but it's basically the only form of control that Protoss has in the entire map. And the more creep you have, the higher chance you have of killing the prism. So it's very, very, very important. So again, that's another benefit you're gonna gain by making Overseers instead of Spores. You'll be able to control your creep faster. You don't have to worry about DTs walking to your mineral line. You can actually kill them on your creep instead. Drone count right now is okay. You're making more. I like it. You're still making more. Okay, so you did the double evo thing again. We know we already talked about this. It's one evo when you start the hydrogen. Spire way too early unless your plan is to go mutas. If you want to base trade this guy, I understand. It's a different playstyle. It's totally viable. I'll say this. I don't mind what you're doing. I don't mind that you took a macro hatch, you took a Spire. I would really like to see you start Zergling speed now because you're going for this many Ravagers. Because what I see happening now is you're going to push with your Roach Ravager army, and you might do some damage, you might not. You might, well, you're going to obviously kill some shit. But you're giving yourself the ability to turn this into like a high mobile aggressive Zerg because you're keeping your base one up above him. You're even expanding again. I would love to see you take gas here. And you should be able, you should transition your army from Roach Ravager now into Ling Muta. And I would love to see you make one more round of Roaches until you max while Ling speed started. And then start switching into Muta Ling after this. Try to like keep Roach Ravager alive if you can. Don't throw it away. Do damage with it. But with how you're playing this, the only thing that makes sense is if you go Muta Ling. If you just go Roach Ravager into yeah, this doesn't make sense. You might as well cancel the Spire. For now. Spire's too early if you're gonna go Hydra Den like that. If you're gonna make the Hydra literally for Broodlord, make the Hydra Den when you start the Hive. Or sorry, if you're I said that incorrectly. I heard what I just said. If you want to make the Spire to make Broodlords, you make the Spire when you start the Hive. And that's it. A Spire build time and a Hive build time are the exact same. It's 71 seconds. And it allows you to start a Greater Spire the second a Hive is done. Which perfectly gets Broodlords paced out. But if you start a Spire now, this is just, it's once again inefficient. You're not maxed yet. You're spending money in ways you shouldn't be. You're not spending your money entirely anyways, but still, these are things that impact the game. You will eventually, if you get your macro better, you will get yourself to a point where you'll actually spend your money and be like, I don't know if I can really afford a Spire. I can't. It's going to delay my max, but let's do it. Doesn't make sense, right? It does not make any fucking sense. So this is way too early. Yeah, you went mutas. Since you're going muta, I would love, again, like I said before, if you plan on going muta, I would love to see you go for metabolic boost, an upgrade of weapons, and melee upgrade, which you're already getting now. Well, you already have one, but keep going melee. Go full weapon upgrade, Muta Ling, if you want to go for a muta style. Weapon upgrades are so important in this situation. Also, I like that you built a macro hatch. I think you should do that more often. Until you really get like to become a boss of macro, I love that you build macro hatches. And you should always build a macro hatch after you're third saturated, while also expanding to more bases. And if like right now, I would actually love to see you even take a second macro hatch, or a third, even, because you can definitely see your macro is completely dropped off. You have 6,000 minerals. And you have been larva capped for God knows how long. And that is why, like, you've won this game, so it's not the biggest deal. But I'm trying to teach you how, like, the reason why I kind of harp on shit like this is because I'm trying to teach you habits on how to beat players that are better than the ones you're already fighting against. Because StarCraft is like linear progression, and just because you can beat this Protoss, for anyone out there listening that's like, geez, he's won the game already. Who gives a shit? This guy is not the best Protoss in the world. There are many Protosses who are going to be a harder challenge than this. And if you have gameplay like this, you won't beat better Protosses. So it's something really you need to, that needs to be worked on in general. Yeah, it's very, very important. Yeah. Your opener is okay. I'm not gonna keep repeating myself because I feel like I've already kind of told you a lot about the opener and how I think you can fix it in lots of different ways. Lots of different ways. But your decision making, I think, definitely is something to be improved on. And I would say my best advice to you for the rest of this before I end this video would be MuffinMeistro. I really highly recommend you watch all these again. And you watch them multiple times, but the first time you watch them again, watch them only for build order purposes. Like, kind of let all my strategy things that I say kind of be white noise to you, and let everything I say build order wise and like just macro wise really resonate with you, because that should be your first step, is just getting the build correct, basically, like getting it really down. And then once you feel like you have the build kind of like a little bit more solid, and you feel like you're executing it a bit better, like get used to the timings and shit I was talking about as well. But once you feel like you have the build kind of like a bit more comfortable and you're really down, really work on your decision making in the mid to late game. Because I think that is actually your biggest weakness. I think you have the ability to micro sometimes, like a player above your current skill level. And I think you also have the ability to macro like a player above your current skill level. But I think when you put those things together, you become a player that is below your skill level. Like, if you're not doing anything besides macroing, I'm like, damn, dude, nice creep. Nice drones. If you're not doing anything besides microing, I'm like, that micro was okay. You magic box those mutas. You split those hydras. Not bad. But when those two things have to go together, I'm like, whoa. You're not doing the other option. You're not multitasking the other thing when you're doing the one thing you're working on. Like, you're not macroing at all when you're microing, and you're also not really making good decisions with your micro choices when you're macroing. You're really lopsided on that front, so just really work on that, and try to give yourself more intelligent ways to play, basically. Like, really think about, like, why the fuck am I doing what I'm doing, and stop trying to make yourself stop thinking about the game in a way where you're feeling like you're the one who's pressured. Like, I saw that many times throughout this whole entire series of games that I watched you play, basically. I watched you basically at certain points be like, okay, this guy has the lead. I don't know why he's hitting the gas pedal to end the game right now, though. Like, just know that with this build, 99% of your opponents will fall behind to you. And you should be the one that's like, I took a great defensive fight. And my goal is to tech. Let's tech. Because now I'm not going to get stopped. And once I get there, I'm fucking going to win automatically. Because I know I'm massively ahead. Rather than being like, gotta kill him, gotta kill him, gotta kill him. Oh god, gotta kill him. Like, that's a bad mentality. And I feel like you made that mentality a lot. So just know that every single time you spread the creep one tumor further, and every time you get your tech one piece higher towards in-game death ball, your percentage of winning goes from like 50 to 55 to 60, 65, 70, 75. It gets a little bit higher every time. You gain more. It's like you're a snake, just like constricting your opponent, and you're just like guaranteeing that you're gonna win. More or less, you're just controlling the game. And if you get really good at doing that, beating players that are higher level than you will feel easier and easier and easier, because this is fundamental gameplay required of a GM player. Whether you like it or not, I'm sure you do because you're already playing this way to a point. But whether you like it or not, you have to play this way to play high level. You have to be able to. You have to be able to be of the caliber to do shit like that if you want to be. If you want to improve, the more the better. Like, you have to do a little bit if you want to improve a little bit. Obviously, you have to improve a lot at it if you want to improve, like, up to GM or Masters 1 or some shit. But you already have the idea. You just need to execute better. But yeah, I said some really nice shit throughout this whole series that you'll resonate with again in the future. So go back to it, watch it again. Just make sure you have the right mindset with how you take fights. It's really important. And yeah, that's the end of this one, guys. Thank you for watching MuffinMeistro. Thank you again for the third one. I hope you learned a lot from it, dude. And much love, man. And good luck. See you guys in the next one. Peace. Bye, guys.